Hey everybody, it is Marley K. Hope you're doing well. It is Thursday, February 17th, and I wanted to talk to you today about a couple of different pieces that I found very interesting. And one is about Florida and their need to address suddenly the fatherhood crisis. And I find it interesting because one, we have this governor down here who's wilding out, and he is trying to compete with Donald Trump for, I guess, either a spot on the ticket or either to replace him as the head of the Democratic Party. So if you haven't really been paying attention to what has been going on down here, um, I recommend everybody pay attention to Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis because he is vying to become the next um, leader of the Republican Party. And if you thought Trump was bad, this dude is like 10 times worse. Like he is smarter than Trump because he's a politician and he's more polished. And I don't know if people will get behind him, but when you look at the dog whistle legislation that they've been passing here, they passed the Anti-Riot Act, where people can run over protesters with their cars. That was passed after the George Floyd protest, the BLM protest back in 2020. They have an abortion ban on the ballot now. They have a no gay law where you can't say gay in school. They're planning on they are opposing CRT, which is not even in K through 12 public schools, but they made a whole big stink about it, and passed the law so that there's only certain types of history that can be taught in school. So Florida has been like on a cutting edge along with Texas in passing all these bills that are either targeting black people, they're targeting the LGBTQ community, or they're targeting black men specifically. And so this is one of those bills that is a dog whistle, but it also lays the groundwork or gives you a little feedback into, or not feedback, insight into what the plan of the Republican Party is for the next 3 years. And it is to vilify black men, to gin up their support because they know and we know that white people are afraid of black men. White people tend to think that black people are problems, and that we our men abandon our children, and we are not necessarily connected to the family. And so Florida is passing, or they have advanced a bill to address the fatherhood crisis. And what they're trying to say is that um, fathers, even though they didn't say which fathers, you see here where they begin with, what do poverty, depression, incarceration, and falling behind in school all have in common? And it says that the House Speaker from Palm Harbor, they are some of the most common outcomes for children growing up in homes with absent fathers. Well, um, why all of a sudden during a political year when the governor is running for re-election that they decide to focus on who is out of the home, just out of the blue. We are in the midst of a pandemic. People have lost their jobs. Just all sorts of things are happening in our community. We've had numerous school shootings here in Florida, all sorts of situations, but this particular focus on poverty, depression, incarceration, and falling behind in school is a dog whistle to talk about young black males and black fathers and black men in general. So Here it said, we find there is a direct correlation between not having a present father or male role model in the life of a child and these negative outcomes, with no um, you know, data or anything. So here's it, kids raised in homes without a father are twice as likely to drop out of school, according to research presented by house staff, and boys with present fathers are three times more likely to, without present fathers are three times more likely to go to jail. What I find interesting is this is the home of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, right here in the county where I live, where a young Hispanic slash white boy went to school and killed, a bunch of kids in one of the wealthiest communities in this state. And it was rated the best, the top, um, school district in one of the top communities in the country prior to this shooting. And so this kid lived in a house with a woman and a man who were not his parents because both of his parents were deceased. And he had access to firearms. He had a violent history. He apparently had some type of mental health issue or learning disabilities. He had a history and a pattern of being violent. And yet he went to this upper middle class school. He went and shot it up. He left. And, it took them almost 4 years to prosecute this boy, and yet they want to focus on a certain segment of children, which are our children, black children. So, white supremacy is playing the trick of, we don't want you to look and focus on our white men out here in the street acting like yahoos. We don't want y'all to pay attention to their gathering militias and insurrectionists, and how white boys are going into school shooting up, their classmates, and how they're leaving the military and becoming anti-government and all these different things. They just want to go back to focus on the same old stereotypes that white people tend to focus on. And as a matter of fact, it's very interesting because this is the same BS that Obama pulled during his administration. He had a fatherhood initiative, and for the entire 8 years of his administration, and all he talked about was how black men were absent from the home, even though statistics show that black men are the most engaged with their children, regardless of whether they're in or out of the home, more so than white men and white fathers. So I just want you to understand what is happening, because it's happening in Florida, which means you're going to see this happen in a lot of other states. And so you need to pay attention, because it's a possibility that it could happen, um, you know, not only happen in your state, but it could also impact your children and the things that you're getting ready to start see happening. It's kind of like a dog. Like I said, it's a dog whistle, but they're getting ready to start targeting kids in school. So this bill, Measure HB 7065, directs children of the family services to create responsible fatherhood initiative, complete with the website and television and social media promoting promoting effective parenting. The department would also oversee the designation of grants to programs and nonprofits that promote fatherhood and support at-risk boys, including the state's post-secondary education supports and services job college readiness program to foster children. Grants will be geared towards helping fathers when it comes to finding employment, managing child support obligations. Who you think they're talking to with that? Transitioning from a period of incarceration, accessing health care, understanding child development, and enhancing parenting skills. And the bill will provide $70 million in funding, and June would be designated as Responsible Fatherhood Month. Among other provisions in the bill, the Department of Juvenile Justice also would be required to coordinate data with the Department of Children and Family Services, the Department of Children and Families, to identify children in both You can't legislate being a father. You can't legislate fatherhood, but what we can do is lift up our fathers in the community who might have not been equipped with tools on how to be fathers. So I just find it interesting that they decide to come up with this. And what's interesting, but at the end of the article, it says prior to the passage of the bill, several Democratic lawmakers raised concerns over racist and ableist language in a section of state law related to the foster care system. The statute in question characterizes children as difficult to place in foster care as generally being disabled, black, or mixed. And Sprouse said work is underway to remove the offensive language. So again, when you get to the end of the article, it basically tells you who this bill is targeted towards, and it's going to be targeted towards black men, racially biracial men, um, and just men in general who have always been stereotyped as people who are not responsible and who don't take care of their children. So this is another, attempt at the dominant society to label black men as inferior, not engaged, problematic, um, a drain on society, and to give the appearance that black fathers need help raising their children. And even if some black men or biracial men or poor men or whoever fit into this category, the problems that lead to them being in the state are not addressed. They don't address the over policing. They don't address the harsh school to prison pipeline. They don't address child welfare and how child welfare makes a living snatching people out of their homes and putting them in foster care or juvenile detention. Um, so there are a whole lot of things that are not addressed, which I hate these programs. But I just want to talk a little bit about that to get people aware of what's coming down the pipe, because there's going to be a steady bombardment of attacks on black men, black boys, black fathers, and they're going to use anything and everything they can to vilify black men for the next 3 years so that they can gin up this white support so that people will vote for Republicans. And you're going to see stuff like this pop up in other red states. You're going to hear this language, but we need to counter it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my representative, especially the black ones that I know for representing my area, and just complain about this bill. Make your um, complaints known, push back against this narrative, counter it with other things, because black fathers may be a problem, but clearly white fathering is a problem too, because we got a whole society of racist people walking around with weapons. People are in power making all types of racist laws. They're storming school board meetings. You got Proud Boys sitting with masks, faces covered, in meetings, and to intimidate parents. So let's talk about white parenting, because white parenting is a problem. White fatherhood is a problem too. We have a white fatherhood crisis, and I don't see any white legislator anywhere talking about the white fatherhood crisis that we have, where they are raising generation after generation of racist and white young boys who grow up to become white men who engage in white vigilante violence or create racist policies that targets certain groups. So let's keep it real. Like, black people are not the only problems in society. We don't have just a fatherhood crisis where they don't have role models. Black men may not have role models, or they have plenty of role models. There's plenty of productive, successful, decent, everyday hardworking black people everywhere. So it's not a such thing as they don't have role models. Um, what about white men? White men have plenty of people they look up to, and they still turn out terrible out here making up shitty laws and, you know, beating up people on their jobs if they work at police or, detention centers. They're joining white supremacist, um, groups and becoming, violent people, just beating up people because they can, and they seek out these positions of power so that they can do that. So we don't have just a fatherhood crisis. We have all kinds of crises, but only one is being centered, and that's the one that's targeting black men. So just be aware that these types of bills are being created, and if you see them being created in your state, make sure you oppose them, speak out on them. And if you live in Florida, definitely contact your representative and complain. Get groups to go to offices and complain. Um, Make it known that you're paying attention, because if you let these bills pass, they'll just continue to make stuff and target us without any pushback, and that's not what we want. We want to let them know that we are paying attention and we don't need this, we don't want this. If you have things in your community, talk about them. If you have mentoring programs, mention them. But just say that we don't want this type of attention, and we are not seeking any type. We don't have a fatherhood crisis. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at the data that they presented, and make your assessments there. But this is going to be a pattern, it's going to be an ongoing activity, and we need to be on top of it, because if not, this is just going to get worse. So every year you'll see it get more and more aggressive until we get to 2024. But we don't want to be the whipping boys and drums for white people to beat on in order to get them to the polls, and we know that's what they love to do. So just pay attention to what's happening, make sure you stay on top of it, and please, please, please contact your representatives and make sure that when see these bills, that you really act on them. Don't sit back and just like it's not my responsibility. Write, call, go visit, make your thoughts known on these bills, especially black men, because if you do not, they will continue to vilify our men and boys, and even for the kids that are in foster care and in juvenile detention centers, they don't have a voice and they're also being targeted. So we have to also speak out for those children who don't have adults who can address their best interests. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I'm Marley K. I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday.